Good evening to all of our viewers and listeners, and welcome to another edition of Making the Case. As usual, I am always very pleased to be here with you every Wednesday night, and tonight is no different. If you are joining me on television, on MTV, Channel 14, Cable 65, welcome. And whichever part of Guyana you are, I know some people on the Essequibo coast who are tuning in this evening. I want to say welcome to all of you. And if you're joining me on Freedom Radio, a special hello to you. And those of you who are joining me on Facebook Live, welcome. And as is usual, I will ask you to please help me to share this program by clicking on that link. Ensure that you share as far and as wide as possible so that we can get all of the information out to our people. You know, a lot of people are eager to click share buttons on Facebook, but we have to be mindful that we are sharing the right things, that we're sharing the correct information. And so it's very important that this program reaches as many of our people as possible in Guyana, in the diaspora, wherever our people are. It's important that they get accurate and reliable information about what is taking place in our country. We must not be swift to share the fake news or to share propaganda or to fall prey to propaganda. And so we have to be mindful of that. And I will go into explaining a little bit about why that is so dangerous, because I had such a very recent example, as recent as yesterday. And so I want to take this opportunity tonight to spend a few moments before I get into the budget. And you know, this week has been a very exciting week, because the budget was presented to the Parliament on Monday, and a lot of Guyanese are very excited with the allocations in the budget and the initiatives that have been highlighted in the budget and our programs and policies that we have to roll out for 2023. So I will go into a bit of details with the budget later on in the program, but to kick things off tonight, I want to just speak a few minutes about the commissioning that I had yesterday in Sophia, where I went there to commission 3 structures, 3 bridges that were rehabilitated, were rebuilt, as a matter of fact. The plight of the community was brought to my attention when I was on another assignment in that community a few weeks ago. So it wasn't very long ago. I think it was early in December of 2022. And I was taken to these dilapidated structures where school children have to cross, small children who go to daycare, preschool, and nursery school. And so the head teacher and the teachers at the school and some parents highlighted the challenge that they have with the bridge, or with the bridges. And so after seeing the condition or the state of the bridges, I immediately committed to fixing those bridges. So as per normal, we went out, we advertised, we got our quotations, and we got the bridges rebuilt, brand new bridges. Now, yesterday I saw a few members of the opposition, Ganesh Maipal and a few of the others, who I don't expect anything better from. So they captured an image of a single bridge, and they put the combined costs for the entire project on one bridge to give the impression
that that was the cause, per bridge. And we know what their intention is with doing something like that. It is to mislead, and it is to cause public confusion, and to lead people to think that the project was not above board and there are allegations of corruption and so on. What surprised me was that many people were irresponsible with sharing those things around social media, because it would not take someone a minute to go to my page or to go to DPI's page just to verify whether that information is accurate or not. When you see the aspersions that were cast and you see the type of Facebook posts that was made emanating from the opposition and its activists and its minions through propaganda pages and so on, and some people outright, members of parliament like Mike Paul, deliberately misleading people. And then you have people, including our own supporters, who fell prey to that. And that is disappointing, because a quick search would have been able to correct the record. Because from the time you look at what was put out there, you know that it could not be right. And so this is a classic example of how easy it is to mislead, and using social media for its unintended purpose. Social media can be good and it can be bad. Social media was very important and integral to our struggle in 2020, when the APNU AFC coalition were openly trying to rig an election. We had the use of social media and lives and the ability to record what was transpiring, so that we can prove to the nation and we can prove to the international community what was taking place in our country. And so when you had members of the now opposition, who was then in government, trying to swing the story or give their own version of what was taking place, we had actual proof to be able to debunk what they were saying. And so that played a very, very important role in helping us to overcome that struggle and in ensuring that the correct results were announced. And so every week I implore people on this program to be mindful of propaganda, to be mindful of fake news, and to ensure that when we are utilizing social media, that we do so responsibly, and that we get the facts out there, that we get the correct and the accurate information out there. When I was on the ground in Sophia yesterday, people were so happy. Teachers were happy, the kids were happy, the parents were happy, and the members of the community were so happy that such a small project can have such a great impact. And if you have people on social media trying to disparage that project or trying to disparage the work of the government, it hurts people. And so we have to be mindful of that. You rob them of their happiness and of their pleasure in that project. And like I said, I didn't expect anything different from the opposition, because that is now their modus operandi. They go out there to intentionally cause confusion. My Paul couldn't put up a photograph of something that the APNU built and said, this is what we have done in Sophia, or this is what we have done in other parts of the country. He couldn't compare a track record, because the coalition government has no track record of which to speak of, or certainly no good track record of which to speak of. We know their track record. Their track record is mismanagement. Their track record is a lack of vision, zero opportunities in the country, no social programs, there's no housing program, there was no proper investment in healthcare, there was pervasive drug shortages throughout the country, corruption was rampant, you had ministers using public funds to purchase gifts and so on for themselves. That kind of rank track record is what the APNU has. And so they have to try to put a spin on everything that we do to gain cheap political points. And there are some people on social media, their supporters and so on, who no matter how much you try to explain, can still be misled. And that is very unfortunate and it's very sad. For example, what we went through with the Mocha situation. No amount of explanation can change the minds of some people because they are determined to believe the lies that emanate from the members of the opposition. But then there are other people who we expect different from. People who are level-headed, people who can read, people who can easily go and check to verify the facts. There's no big research involved in ensuring that you access the accurate information and not to share propaganda or to share fake news and then perpetuate a situation that does not exist and try to create the wrong impression in people's minds. So we have to be mindful of that. And you know, my Paul's criticism would have been very different. And I want you to think about this. My Paul's criticism would have been very different had I been to, say for example, Annandale and built those bridges for the community. The criticism would not have been on the project itself. The criticism would have been that this project was executed in a predominantly Indo-Guyanese community versus in an Afro-Guyanese community. But it was done in an Afro-Guyanese community predominantly. And so that goes against their constant criticism of our government based on racial discrimination. So he had to put a different spin on it. And so he intentionally tried to mislead people. Anyway, I was able to put out a statement today to correct the record, but I was disappointed that I had to do so because it could have been so easily fact-checked, and you could see that Mahipal was blatantly lying, and many of the activists who were on social media reposting that nonsense they were also perpetuating what was not true. So I hope that people recognize these criticisms for what they are, and we have to stay focused. I've been saying repeatedly on this program that the accusations, the allegations, and the aspersions will continue to get more wild as we get closer to an election, which we have the local government elections coming up, and as we get closer to 2025. They're going to become extremely desperate as we get closer. And so having no track record of which to speak of, they are going to try to distort everything that we do and to try to come up with more and more lies as we go along, and trying to mislead people openly and blatantly. And so you will remember that I said so week after week on this program, that the accusations will become more and more ridiculous and outrageous, and so we have to guard against that, and we have to correct people when we see them going astray or falling prey to people who are intentionally trying to mislead and to cause confusion. Now, what is amazing and what is very predictable with the opposition is that when you go into communities that they consider their strongholds, Sophia being one example, they squeal, they scream, they get confused, and they have an immediate reaction, and it's normally a harsh reaction because it's a blow to them when we can go into their communities and we can execute projects and people can be happy and satisfied with these projects. It goes against what they're telling people all the time about racial discrimination and so on. So it goes against that, and it really shows them up because people will remember that they did nothing in these communities. So when the president, for example, can go into Belladrum, or he can go into Buxton, or any community, or Linden, and he's welcomed, and we can execute projects in those communities, it's a blow to them. It's a severe blow. And so they react in a very illogical manner. And so we saw that even yesterday. Now, we have been making inroads in all of these communities. And we have said publicly that we will be a government for all of Guyana. And so we have ensured from the time we took office in 2020 to ensure that our resources and the resources of the country are distributed equitably among our people. And so even in Sophia, people are rejecting them. In 2018, we had the last local government elections, and C and D Field Sophia already rejected them because we won that area, that local authority area, in 2018. C and D Field Sophia. They voted PPP. And so we are working in other parts of that area, and they're very, very scared. But I have all confidence that we are going to do much better this time around, not only because of our track record, because we have always been working in these communities. Sophia started as a squatting area, and many people the older people who live in Sophia will remember the legend that was Philomena Sahoy, that went to that area, that fought for the people in that area to be regularized. And today tens of thousands of people reside in Sophia. A field, B field, C field, D field, E field, all over. Plum Park, Farmers Field, all of those communities regularized by the People's Progressive Party civic government. And then even now, people are benefiting from our housing program. In 2020, when we announced that we were going to do the infrastructure work in Cummins Lodge, which is not far from the existing area that is known as Sophia, some people were critical that, oh, you're going close to Sophia to do a housing scheme, and there was this usual stereotypical criticism about Sophia. But we are going to take development in every single community, and that community is no exception. And so we went in there, we allocated house lots in Cummins Lodge, and now when people go there, when people see the development that is taking place in Cummins Lodge, it is a scheme that people are trying so desperately to get into. And so we have our housing construction program that is ongoing there as well. So we are going to work in every and all communities. We have under the ministry as well the Adequate Housing and Urban Accessibility Program, which is a program funded by the Interdevelopment Bank, which has seen many benefits being distributed to the people of Sophia. We've seen core homes from 2020 to now, we have handed over 15 core homes to beneficiaries in Sophia. We have another 50 beneficiaries already selected, and these works will be underway in Sophia for core homes. We have distributed 111 subsidies already. This is the home improvement subsidies. The people of Sophia have already benefited from these 111 persons, and we have another 139 beneficiaries that have been approved, and these will be distributed shortly. And we have seen massive infrastructure work being undertaken to the tune of almost $1 billion for the upgrading of roads, of bridges, the installation of street lights, the construction of sidewalks, and a community facility that was constructed and commissioned in Seafield, Sophia. All of this has taken place from 2020 to now. Our government has been able to deliver this. What has the APNU AFC done for Sophia or any other predominantly Afro-Guyanese community? They don't like when we ask these hard questions because there is no track record, there is no evidence of which they can refer to of what their government did when they were in office for Afro-Guyanese or for anybody. The people who are screaming now, family and friends, were the people who were actually looking after themselves, their families, and their friends when they had the opportunity to serve the people of this country in government. So Norton leaves the chamber of the National Assembly and went to speak to the press and spoke about, well, first of all, I'm yet to hear a single constructive criticism of our budget for this year. All of them combined, that whole opposition combined, cannot put together a single constructive criticism of this budget. And that is because we have a fantastic budget, and that is also because they are absolutely incapable of making any constructive criticisms. So when he is saying to the people that, oh, their family and friends budget and so on, remember it was Valda Lawrence who said, who is on record. So this is not an allegation or this is not a rumor. This was Valda, and we heard her in a recording saying to people, to members of her party, that she will only give work to PNC people. They're the people that looked after family and friends, the same ones who are pointing fingers now. And so we have to recall these things, that there is actual evidence, that there is actual proof that this is the ideology of the people in the opposition. This is the ideology of the PNC, and of now the APNU, AFC combined. That is their ideology. When we are giving scholarships to people, including to members of the opposition, they took for themselves when they were in office, and they give to their children when they were in office. They didn't care about members of the public. They didn't care about poor people. Now they are loud advocates for the poor, and they're talking about friends and family. Well, I think the president had a very fitting response to that. That yes, all of Guyana is his friends and family, because all of Guyana will be benefiting from this budget. And all of Guyana has been benefiting from the time we took office in 2020 to now. And successive People's Progressive Party civic governments have been serving the people of this country. And so we have done, I can go through, the list doesn't end there with the work that we have done in just over 2 years in that community alone. In North Sophia, only a few days ago, the sod was turned for the construction of a 14 million multi-purpose community ground and safe place. This contract is being executed by the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development in keeping with a commitment made by the Vice President when he was in that community. Members of that community also raised the challenges that they're having and the difficulties facing with the Beefield Bridge, which is a main link between Sophia and South Georgetown. And that bridge is being reconstructed by the Ministry of Public Works to the tune of $50 million. We were there only a month or two ago to sign the contract for this project. And so there are many, many more projects that are being executed in that community, and APNU has no track record like this to match even in one community. And so this is why they have resorted to telling open lies and trying desperately to mislead people. And so while they think they may still have a stronghold in these communities, I believe very strongly that the local government elections will once again prove them wrong. And this time we will not only increase our seats at the City Council by 5, but I think we have a very good opportunity now, looking at the track record and the conduct of the mayor. People want him to go, and people have seen that the city of Georgetown, while many other parts of the country have been benefiting from resources through central government, and we have been moving at a faster rate of development in other parts of the country, people are realizing that the city of Georgetown is being left behind. And that is, of course, because of the management of the city. Over 50 years, the PNC has been managing the city of Georgetown. And sometimes we forget that. And that is why local government elections is so critical to the management of the city and in ensuring that people want the assurance of knowing that all of the country will move forward together at the same pace of development, and they want the resources to be allocated equitably in all of these areas. And so when local government election, the date for local government election is announced, we need people to go out there and to vote resoundingly for the city to be managed by councillors of the People's Progressive Party Civic. That's the only way we will see real change and development taking place in the city of Georgetown. We have to break this deadlock that they've had for over 50 years, that the PNC has had on this city. We have to free Georgetown. And so we can do so by voting for the right party, by voting for the People's Progressive Party Civic. A vote for our government and our party is not only a vote for us, but it is a vote against the APNU AFC. And so you have to remember that. It is your rejection of them, and that also counts. So I like to tell people you're voting twice. You know, when you vote for the cup, you're voting twice. You are endorsing the party, but you are also rejecting the bad management and the incompetence that comes from the opposition. So, moving on to more pleasant topics. Now, but you know, I like sometimes spending time on the opposition, because for more than one reasons. We have to recall the things that they have done, and it helps us to put into perspective where we are today, why we are where we are today, and we can measure in a real way the progress that we have made. So that is very important. Remembering who these people are, because they come now, they're wolves in sheep clothing. So we have to be careful with them. And I'm very disappointed that I didn't have any transcript from Mr. Norton's press conference yesterday, because he didn't have a press conference yesterday. When I was deciding what day to begin my program, to restart this program, I intentionally, and it's okay, I can tell the people, I intentionally put it on Wednesday so that I can have an opportunity to respond to the opposition leader or to opposition members who would present at their weekly press conference on Tuesdays. Now I saw 2 weeks ago Norton abruptly changed his press conference days to Thursday. So I am very disappointed. I don't know if Mr. Norton is afraid or the opposition members are afraid and they're deliberately trying to come after me on Wednesdays. But I'm very disappointed that they've moved to Thursdays, because I can't tune in and listen to them. I've said that before. It irritates me to hear some of them speak. So I would review the transcript and then I would respond on my program on Wednesdays, because there is a lot of things that we have to correct and respond to during their press conference. And a lot of it is a lot of nonsense, but you have to, it's part of our work to be able to set the record straight and to ensure that people are not misled with inaccurate information. But rest assured that we will not be distracted by them, that our focus is on the work. But we are politicians and we have to be able to respond to our opponents. So we saw Minister Ashley Singh, as is his usual style, deliver an eloquent budget speech for about 5 hours, announcing our budget of $781.9 billion. And this year we can see a lot of increased spending in the major sectors, in some of the major sectors. And what is important is that people know that with the budget, it has been fully financed and there are no new taxes. So people do not have to be afraid of any inflation that will be caused by the budget, or they do not have to be afraid of the imposition of any hardship taxes. That is not something that has ever been associated with our government. And so they never have to be afraid, people never have to be afraid of budget day. I remember as a child growing up, when I would hear about budget or the budget, you hear budget day is announced and you have the date beforehand. I remember seeing my family and recalling people going into a kind of a panic because they're afraid of what measures might be announced in the budget, and the economy was so volatile that sometimes prices would go up, and so people would go on a panic and start to shop groceries and so on. That would last them for weeks. But that is a thing of the past. And our economy now is more mature, and you have a government that can properly plan on how we will manage and how we will spend the resources of the country so as not to result in any unwanted inflation. And also people have not to fear that there will be any imposition of new taxes or increase in taxes. And that fear was very much alive during the 5 years that the APNU AFC were in office. You were wondering, what next? What else will they come with? The year that they announced VAT on education was absolutely crazy. People were stunned and shocked and horrified that a measure like that would be appealing to anybody, or to the finance minister then. Why include such a measure in the budget? And so, like I said, there are no new taxes or no increases in taxes. As a matter of fact, we've seen the Minister Rashni Singh announce several reductions in taxes, and in some cases removal completely. And we're going to go into some of that. But what is important to note is that this budget addresses the needs of today while investing in tomorrow, investing in our future, planning for the future of our country. And so the budget, I believe, is very consistent with the commitments that we made in our manifesto. You know, when you have set out for yourselves and for the country, and as we have done with our manifesto, lay out for the country a 5-year plan. In order for us to deliver on those targets and on those objectives, we have to be backed by the necessary resources, the financial resources in which we will be able to fund all of our projects and policies. And so this budget is very consistent with that. If you were looking for any wow factor, and you will not find anything surprising, which is good, because what you want is a stable country, is a stable government. You want policy measures that are consistent with the commitments that your government made. And that is evidence in our budget with the allocations that we have made. And so when you look at the budget, for example, for infrastructure, we have allocated a whopping $136 billion to enhance the roads and bridges network across the country. And you know that this is an important part of people's daily lives. All across the country, people are crying out about bad roads. And so I've spent time too on this program explaining about development and explaining about how development takes time, how we came, the progress that we've made from 1992 to now. I've shown the steady development. We've went through that history, coming from a bankrupt country, coming to a country where we have excess resources now, and how we've been able to move from first phase development to second phase development, and how now we can build highways and high-span bridges, and we can make investments in the energy sector that can see our electricity being reduced by 50%. And that is one of the major projects in this budget. You know, Norton said, was trying to sound intellectual and mentioned about cheaper energy to aid in manufacturing and in expanding the manufacturing sector. And here you have in the budget $43.3 billion going towards that project, the Gas to Shore project, the construction of the 300 megawatt power plant at Wales Development, which will help us to bring down electricity costs, which will cut it in half, as a matter of fact, by 2025, and saying there's no investment. And so Norton said there's no investment in ensuring that we get cheaper electricity. And we're going to hear a lot more of this nonsense next week when the debates begin. And I am yet to hear, like I said, a single constructive criticism. They are always quick to point out. If you read any statement or listen to anything that Norton says. He never offers any solutions, you know. He will highlight an issue or create highlight some issue that he's not pleased with, or trying to raise a criticism, but never offers an alternative. He will never say, this is what they're doing, these are the consequences, this is how we can fix it. He doesn't have that ability. He doesn't have that capacity to be able to analyze anything. And so all they do is raise problems. They never offer any solution. I've never heard Norton or anybody on the opposition give any technical analysis of any project or dive into any great details on any of the proposals that they make. They will just they'll just make wild statements. Some of it sound very textbook. They don't offer any elaboration on what their ideology is, what they would propose, any kind of alternative plans they would propose, and kind of analyze and dissect that for public consumption. They don't do that. Even at their press conferences, they just read prepared scripts, and when they are pressed to answer questions and to give more details about what they're talking about, they just pick a fight with the reporters, and then the entire press conference degenerates, and it's nothing substantive ever comes out of these press conferences. So, important to note is that the president made some announcements a few weeks ago before the budget about $3 billion in salary adjustments benefiting 5,000 healthcare workers and 9,000 members of the discipline services. And this goes beyond a salary increase. This goes beyond the salary increase that was announced. And what this does is address discrepancies in the system. So a public servant who is working in one ministry or in one agency of the government with one particular set of qualifications, another public servant with those same skill sets and those same qualifications working in a different agency will now be brought on the same scale. So there is no discrepancy in the system. Important also is the increase in the income tax threshold, which was announced by the finance minister, moving the threshold from $75,000 to $85,000 monthly. And this puts $3.3 billion back into the hands of 12,000 taxpayers. So these are people who are benefiting across the board from this measure. People who are working, who are having their taxes deducted. This removes 12,000 taxpayers from that tax net. The Because We Care cash grant for our school children was further increased from $25,000 to $35,000, and I know this means a lot to parents and school children. And the $35,000 added, when you add the $5,000 uniform grant to that, parents will be receiving $40,000 per child this year. And as you know, we have promised to increase over our 5 years. So by 2025, this grant will be $50,000. And we have, from the first year, we have not only restored the cash grant, but we have been incrementally increasing it until we fulfill our commitment of $50,000 per school child. There are measures that we took not only this year, but beginning from last year and continuing into this year, measures that we took to ease the cost of living. And some people don't even realize that the government has been heavily subsidizing the cost of fuel. You know, sometimes when something is not affecting you directly, or you're not feeling the negative impact of something, you don't think that there is a problem. But had your electricity rates or water rates been increased, as would have been a natural consequence of fuel prices increasing, then you would have certainly felt and know that you have a problem. And it would be very difficult for some families to be able to pay increased rates and taxes on rates on water and electricity. But even before those increases hit, even before those increases were passed down to the consumers, to our people, we absorbed it. And so we've been doing this now for more than a year, absorbing the increase in fuel prices. And we've said, the president has made it very clear that water rates and electricity rates will remain the same, and there will be no increases as a consequence of the increase in fuel. And so zero excise taxes remain on fuel, so as to absorb the impact of fuel prices as well. The reduction in freight charges, we've extended the application of freight cost adjustments, and we have pre-pandemic rates. This now remains pre-pandemic rates, and so this is not again a burden on people who are shipping. The expansion of the part-time job program, we've allocated $10 billion for the expansion of the part-time job program. And here again, I hear Norton saying that, oh, you know, the PPP promised to give jobs, full-time jobs, not part-time jobs. Well, of course, we've been increasing employment for our people. All across the country, people have returned to work. In areas where they closed call centers, for example, we have reopened and we have re-employed those people. The sugar industry, where they sent home 7,000 sugar workers, those people have begun to be re-employed. The 2,000 CSOs, the Amerindian CSOs that they sent home, have all been reinstated, and more have been employed. In our construction sector, that has been heavily supporting our housing sector as well as the infrastructure and the construction sector, thousands of people, tens of thousands of people have been put to work. This is creating new jobs. And then to further add to the job pool and to cater for a specific category of people who do not or cannot have a full-time job because of commitments, for example, at home, or people with small children and can only have a few hours in the day or in the week. This program is for them so that they can only work a few hours. That's all the time that they have anyway to be able to go to a place of employment and still to earn a salary that can help contribute towards the expenses of their household. Or maybe people who are studying, young people who are studying and still would like to find a part-time job to help subsidize an income or to help their families. This is an opportunity for them. So we've allocated money here to expand the part-time jobs program. And we have also set aside an additional $5 billion for additional cost of living measures that will be determined as we go into communities and as we have our ongoing community engagements. Of course, we've seen the usual increases in old age pension, we've seen increases in public assistance, and we've seen measures taken in our healthcare sector to improve infrastructure for the building of our children and maternity hospital, the specialty hospital, and for the construction of modern hospitals, 6 new hospitals across the country in different areas, in Lima, in Dikindrin, Diamond, Enmore, Bath, and number 75 Village. People will look forward to this. And also to invest in training. We have put aside over $500 million for investment in training of healthcare professionals. Because we are all too aware that you're only fixing part of the problem when you invest in the infrastructure and you build new hospitals and you purchase new equipment. The other side of delivering healthcare is in ensuring that we have competent healthcare professionals who are properly trained and who understand that they need to deliver a service to people with dignity and with care. And so that is an important part of ensuring that our healthcare sector is provided for and there are sufficient allocations for our healthcare sector. Also, in education, we've seen a sum of $94.4 billion invested in the education sector. And this, of course, is to improve now infrastructure in education, to expand the school feeding program, to ensure that children get their textbooks, and, of course, the Gold Scholarship Program, which this year will see about 8,000 new awards to those students who wish to pursue higher education. When you take into account the number of persons who have benefited from scholarships already, I think it's about 14,000 Guyanese that have already benefited from gold scholarships. When you add the 8,000 that will be distributed this year, you will realize that we have already achieved our target of 20,000 scholarships 2 years in advance. So this is an incredible achievement by our government, and we're not stopping there at 20,000. We will continue to provide scholarships as long as our people want to study. They will be given an opportunity for higher education. And I saw that Norton as well spoke about free education, and the government is not delivering on its promise of free education. I mean, how stupid do you have to be? We said very clearly that we will deliver free university education in our first term. We're only halfway into our term. And these same people who are now talking about free education are the ones who, when they were in office, if you could recall, and a lot of the UG students who are watching, recall when the APNU AFC was in government, they raised university tuition by 35%. 35%. They raised tuition by, in 2018, they imposed. They had incremental increases from the time they took office in 2015. By 2018, it was 35% that they had raised tuition by. And they raised all the fees, processing fees and application fees, in some cases doubling the fees for examinations and so on, doubling those fees, making it harder for our families and for students to study at the University of Guyana. And now they're suddenly advocates for free university education. Well, we promised it and we will deliver it before 2025. You can rest assured of that. So that is not a criticism that in this year we didn't make university education free. That is coming. Just in the same way that we have delivered on all of our other commitments, Mr. Norton ought not to worry himself about the free education for our university. That is coming. We have, very importantly, because I see the operator signaling to me that I'm almost out of time, where I'm like on the second page of examining some of the highlights of the budget. So importantly, in the housing sector, we saw $54.4 billion being allocated, over $17 billion allocated to water for us to ensure that we continue our program of ensuring that by 2025 we deliver 90% treated water to persons who are living on our coastline, and that we continue to improve the access to water in our hinterland communities. We have already improved access from 46% to 75% from 2020 to now. And our target is ensuring 100% access to our Amerindian communities by 2025. In the housing sector, of course, this will help us to expeditiously roll out our land allocation program. We will continue to invest in our housing schemes, in acquiring new lands, opening new lands for housing, and in investing in our housing infrastructure in new as well as existing housing schemes, where people are always highlighting the state of the roads in our housing schemes. We have started to upgrade all of those roads last year from the 1,200 road program that were tendered and are being awarded. People will see the upgrade of roads across the country in several regions. So we've started that program to upgrade roads, community roads, and we will continue that this year. We saw the low-income mortgage ceiling being increased, further increased from 15 million now to 20 million. So people who are looking to build a larger home or acquire a larger mortgage, up to $20 million with this new budget and the measure that was passed, up to $20 million you can now borrow at low interest rates, at the low income interest rates. Here again, we have a measure that is geared towards helping people to acquire home ownership. And we have been very, very pellucid that this is what we want. We want people to become homeowners. We are going beyond land allocation. We want to help people to get into their own homes. We have also removed the value-added tax on the sale of residential properties. So if, for example, you are purchasing a property through a private transaction, that transaction will now, the tax, the 14% VAT will no longer be applicable, and thereby making home ownership more affordable. So you will no longer have to pay that tax to the GRA if you are purchasing a home. So you will see in the housing sector, once again this year, 2023, massive investment in opening up new lands, and we look forward to ensuring that we can reach our target for this year of 10,000 house lots. Every year we are pacing ourselves to ensure we are right on target, and also we have to keep up with the infrastructure work that is taking place in our housing schemes. And the faster we can deliver that, the faster people can be able to occupy their lots and build their homes and move on with their lives. We want to build sustainable communities for people. We want to ensure that all of the projects and the programs that we have will benefit people, will build healthy communities, will contribute towards building healthy families. So next week, I'm not sure if I will be able to join you, because we will have the budget debates ongoing. We'll be in Parliament for 2 weeks. The first week for the budget debates and the second week for the consideration of the estimates. So we'll see what time, up to what time we'll be there, and as long as I am out of Parliament, I will be here to join you. But if not, you know where I am. We will be in Parliament next week debating the budget, and I urge all of you to please tune in and to ensure that you follow very closely the debates. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for joining me this evening. It's been a pleasure spending this hour with you, and I will see you very soon. Please take care, and God bless you.